gentlemen, welcome to Retro Warriors episode 288. Woo! As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by resident old bastard, Chris Saturn.
Hello.
So first up, we have some housekeeping.
Sounded like you were trying to say it for a second there.
I did. Yeah, I went a little high. I didn't mean to. I wasn't trying to steal your thunder.
Oh, okay, my bad.
It was me prompting you. It was a question like housekeeping, and then you did your line.
You were stealing the Diet Dr. Thunder.
The reality was, I saw my voice on my little internet thing wavering, so I was worried my internet cut out. And so I was like asking it mid-sentence,
do I have internet?
Off to a bad start. Cinema Rogues has its own feed that you should go listen to that we mentioned on the last episode. And it used to be on our feed. Now it's a real boy. It's got its own.
It was on our Patreon feed. So if you didn't have a Patreon, you had to go hunt it down.
Well, it was on the Patreon feed. You could listen to it without being on our Patreon, but it was kind of weird because it wasn't on a feed for you.
Right.
If you didn't that was the case.
Patreon. And now you can have it, you can subscribe to it separately.
Yeah, it is cinemarogues.podbean.com. Speaking of Cinema Rogues, the Cinema Rogues, our producer Guy and Talking Wizards co-host Andrew are going to be guest hosting this show for us. Because as you noticed by the title of the show, we don't know how to talk about that.
Nope.
They're going to talk about that.
I think there's a ball involved.
So we're going to be handing the show off to them whenever we hit the topic time.
Yes.
To basically cover that topic. So we hope you enjoy having them on the show as guest hosts. And if you do, you should go listen to Cinema Rogues.
Right.
And if you like it, let us know, because this is just a new, different thing we're trying. And if it's fun and you enjoyed it and you want more guest hosts, then cool, we can do that.
It's the future. So, Retro Warriors is experimenting. We're branching out.
There it is, 2021, a brave new world. I ripped my own monitor out of my ear with my watch when I said that. My week, I've been playing Persona 4.
Yes.
Some more.
Nice.
This is my nursery rhyme about it.
We're off to a brilliant
weird
start.
Night. It's been a very weird night. I'm glad I don't have to do this whole show, because I would just fuck it up all the way to the end. I've been playing more Persona 4. I'm still enjoying it. I feel like I'm just now kind of getting past the sort of introductory. Well, I keep feeling like I'm getting past the introductory segment, and then they introduce more things, and I'm like, oh, I guess I wasn't there.
Right.
I'm still enjoying it. I'm still having a good time. I think I'm really starting to click with the combat situation.
Nice.
After I've adjusted the difficulty a bit.
I do really appreciate the combat in that series. It's a really good turn-based combat system.
And I'm really kind of enjoying the characters. I know I'm on record as saying that I hate all stories of all forms, and
true.
that I hate anything involving high school.
That's also true.
And this is a very slice of life JRPG-esque story about high school students, and I'm still kind of enjoying it. I mean, I skip a lot of the dialogue because there are filler scenes, but for the most part, I'm still in. I'm still engaged.
Right.
I think I'm around the 15-16 hour mark, that's a lot for me. That's like 3 games. Okay, so it's a bunch. But that's been about all I've really been playing.
Nice. I went back to Ys Origin, which is one of the games in the series that I have never gotten around to finishing, despite trying to start it like 100 times. And so I finally decided to give it another shot just because I was in between games at the moment. And it's really clicking with me this time. I am at the end of basically the game, because you get to choose one of 2 characters to play as. And spoiler, there's a third character if you beat it with both of them. And I am almost at the end of the game with that first character. And you don't have to go back, but there is extra story for going back and playing as the other characters. So I will, because I'm a tool bag. But I am really enjoying it. I'm right at the final boss right now, and I spent 7 or 8 hours just grinding to be able to buy all of the things that you can buy.
So is that necessary
no,
to beat the final boss?
Not at all.
No.
So
it's necessary to fulfill your own personal requirements.
Correct. There's not even an achievement for it. So it was just for me, but it made me feel better.
What's the point?
But it made me feel better because the list was done. And so now when I go into the final boss, I will go in with clean conscience, knowing that I bought all the things.
Yeah.
And so so then I'll probably just immediately jump to the next character. The character that I'm playing as is the one that plays the most like Adol in all of the other Ys games. And the next character to play as does not. So that'll be a little bit of a learning curve from a gameplay perspective. But I'm hoping, having already played through the game and seen all the enemies and the environments and everything, will make it a little bit easier to go through that.
Yeah. Let's jump into some news.
Yes.
First up, Epic Games is moving into an abandoned mall.
News.
This is going to be a weird year, too, isn't it?
My favorite part was I saw the picture of it, and for some reason in my head, I read Gearbox instead of Epic Games. And Gearbox is here in the area, and I saw the picture of the mall, and I was like, I know that mall. I know which mall that is, and I just recently heard that shut down. Then I read it again, and I was like, Epic Games isn't around here.
And then you remembered that all malls kind of look the same.
Yes, all malls look. Every abandoned mall looks the exact fucking same. And I looked up other pictures of this mall that they are moving into, and I'm like, no, that does totally look like that mall.
Why would they not tear it down and build an office building?
That makes more sense, but no.
Wait. All right, you know what? Cool, whatever.
They're really wanting to relive their Mallrats memories.
Is that what it is?
They're going to
give each other stink palms all day.
They're going to fill the whole place with magic eyes.
Interviews with former Mindscape staff state that Lego Island staff members were laid off to avoid paying bonuses, thus proving my hypothesis that the game industry was always shitty.
Right? And I feel like I'd heard this before.
We've known this one since 2012. Mm-hmm. It was just redrudged up in like a Eurogamer article or something. And I'm always happy to report on it because fuck this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that sucks.
Right.
Nintendo purchasing Canadian developer Next Level Games, who you may know from their work on Luigi's Mansion 3 and other stuff.
I think they also did Dark Moon, but I don't remember.
Yeah. So it's always good to see Nintendo scooping up good talent. I didn't play Luigi's Mansion 3. I know our producer Guy played it and very much enjoyed it, and I've heard good things. So, good on them for keeping good talent in-house.
Right, and I don't think that they have... They don't normally buy second-party studios very often. Even if it's a studio that they've worked with repeatedly and does good work, they will often still keep them at arm's length. So it's always exciting when you see the studios they do purchase, because that makes me feel like they've got some ideas there.
Right, that it's gonna go somewhere.
Right.
Sega reveals that Sakura Revolution, a gacha-based mobile spinoff of Sakura Wars, has not done great. What? Development cost 3 billion yen. And first month made 70 million yen in sales.
So they just rebooted Sakura Wars, what was it, last year or the year before?
Don't ask me.
So it was fairly recently that they tried to reboot the series to begin with. And the first thing they do is pivot to the oversaturated gacha-based mobile game market.
Yeah, at least Nintendo took a little while to get there. They came out with some good stuff first, and they're like, nope. Netflix terminating service for Wii U and 3DS apps, upsetting hundreds of 13-year-olds nationwide who don't yet have smartphones but have old video game consoles.
Right.
On the one hand, like, I get that they don't want to keep supporting it, but on the other hand, I'm like, what does it hurt just having it still be out there and just let it work as much as it works?
I imagine that means they're about to update the Netflix API in some way, and they don't want to update those versions.
Well, it takes a lot of effort to continually ruin the Netflix UI as much as they do.
Right.
So they have to put a lot of work into that.
Top men are involved in this process.
I've got about 7 Netflix-related browser add-ons just to make the UI usable.
That's the minimum.
Nintendo issues DMCA takedown on, wait for it, 379 fan games.
Thanks, Nintendo.
What the fuck, man?
I don't even fucking
chill
know.
out. Nintendo, calm down.
Right?
Just, fuck.
Like, I get it. I get that maybe these fan games should try to at least use an original property, but come on, Nintendo. Maybe go a month without looking like a dick. Just a month.
A recent interview states that Microsoft made a bid to purchase Nintendo in 2000 prior to the launch of the Xbox and were, quote, laughed at for the entire hour that they were in that meeting.
Yeah. Did you read the interview about this?
I read bits of it, and the guy, because the headlines are always a little sensationalized
Right.
to get you to click on them,
Right.
And it was talking about them being laughed at, and the interviewer is like, no, for the entire hour-long meeting, they laughed their asses off.
Yeah. He basically said it was the most painful and humiliating hour of his life. And and then he also mentioned that around that same time they had tried to purchase EA, and EA just straight up said no, not even going to try. They tried to purchase Midway, and Midway was desperate to be purchased, and they were like, maybe we don't want you. And then
Do you think they sent Jackass Miyamoto into that meeting? It was like, oh hey, Microsoft wants to buy us. Hey guys, they want to buy us. No, how much? No, how much are you offering? No, no, really. No, guys, they said they're going to buy us. Come on, everyone get in. Get Steve. Get him in here. Just
Steve from Nintendo.
Yeah, and then just pointed and laughed.
Right.
And then they called Capcom and told them to make a half dozen Game Boy Color Zelda games.
And then apparently they got so far in trying to purchase Square that Steve Ballmer sat down with the president of Square at like a formal dinner, and like they were in the middle of this,
swallowed him whole with his snake mouth.
Yes. No. Apparently they were at that point. Microsoft thought it was a done deal, and they were sitting it down to this nice dinner. And the president of Square, whose name is blanking on me all of a sudden, called in an accountant in the middle of the meeting to come in and say, "Unfortunately, we've decided that you are not offering anywhere near enough money," and then just left the room. So
and then Steve Ballmer ate the entire table worth of dinner because he had no choice.
The entire banquet hall actually just opened his guzzle and just moved it in.
Steve Ballmer, for people that don't remember Steve Ballmer, was insane.
Yes, is insane.
The dude was bonkers.
Yeah.
A 2006 remake of the original Tomb Raider from the game's original developers has been unearthed and I believe is playable.
Yeah, it's a PSP port, and it is you can go play it. Because the re-release that did come out, the anniversary edition, was redesigned by Crystal Dynamics, whereas this one is actually by Core Design, which is neat.
Reports claim that Microsoft continues to make Xbox controllers compatible with AA batteries due to a long-term deal with Duracell. Those reports are quickly refuted by both Microsoft and Duracell.
Yeah.
This seems like one of those things that like someone on the playground would tell you, like,
right?
Well, they got to keep doing the AA's because they come with Duracells, which doesn't even make sense because I'm pretty sure my most recent Xbox controller came with Energizer batteries anyway.
Mine came with Duracells. I do remember that.
Maybe I'm
they're still in there.
Maybe I'm misremembering, but still.
But yeah, it is a silly rumor, and several sites immediately reported on it as if it was based on reality. And then a couple of sites actually bothered to ask either company. Apparently, it was based on a partial quote from Duracell, where they had mentioned their long association and contract with Microsoft for controllers. But they didn't say like, and we are forcing them to do this. It was just like, we are happy to keep this partnership going. And I
got to say, of all the companies that may have something that they're lording over Microsoft, I doubt it's Duracell.
In the process, I learned that Duracell has a pink Duracell bunny overseas.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Whereas here, there's a pink Energizer bunny.
Yeah, that seems weird. Do they still do the weird Duracell family made of robot family that run on giant Duracell batteries in their backs?
I don't remember that, so I have no idea.
You don't remember that?
No.
It might have been Energizer. I don't remember. They run together for me.
It was.
Thank you, Andrew. It was Duracell.
See, it's so nice.
Andrew always remembers the dumb 90s commercials with me.
I'm so glad that both Andrew and Guy are here this week to just jump in and correct us when we're dumb.
Data miners find more information pointing toward a potential Switch Pro, including specs such as better battery, an OLED screen, and a new dock that supports 4K output.
Neat.
Which would be exciting. Nintendo's been oddly quiet, but they do also have kind of a track record of being a little bit offset from new console launches.
Right.
So maybe later this year we'll hear something.
Possibly. They've also had a pretty weak release schedule for the last year or so. So maybe this is what they were working on. Who knows?
SNK reveals King of Fighters 15. Awesome.
Yeah. And also a new season pack for Samurai Showdown.
Yeah, Season Pass 3, I think they're on.
I think so.
2 or 3, something like that. Ask Iwata book releasing in English in April. I'm excited about this one.
Seriously.
Is there a pre-order up anywhere that we're aware of?
I did not see it, but I also did not look after I saw the original article, so that somebody may have put it up since.
I feel like I assume Amazon will have it because they're pretty good about, one, having most of Nintendo's books, and two, having books in general because it's Amazon.
Right.
But I'm waiting to pre-order that one.
Nice.
And finally, the Nintendo Switch has outsold the 3DS's lifetime sales.
Holy shit.
Which, oh my God.
Dang.
The 3DS is still selling.
Right.
And it came out, what, 2012?
Yeah, that sounds right.
It's crazy. That's just crazy.
Yeah, and the 3DS did pretty well. It didn't do as well as the DS or the Game Boy, but it did pretty well. So to see the Switch overtake it so quickly is pretty impressive.
Yeah. Anyway, that's our news segment, which brings us to the handoff, to use a sports ball term that Guy texted me so that I could sound so smart. This week we're talking NFL Blitz. We're talking NFL Blitz. We have Guy and Andrew here, and
we're not talking NFL Blitz.
No, someone is.
Someone more qualified than us.
And I want to say thank you guys for being here and doing this, and I'll just hand it over to you. Right. So take it away.
All right,
Thank
but
you guys.
before you go, I do need to tell you that I enjoyed your little Persona 4 rhyme, and I came up with the end of it, which was just quoth the Raven, Persona 4.
Perfect. I'm going to put that on my book, not credit you, and make millions of dollars.
Perfect.
I'll be rich.
I will sue you for billions of dollars, and then we all win.
Well, it's a good thing there's no recorded evidence of this conversation anywhere.
Oh,
oh, damn. Pablo, take out all the recorded evidence.
Pablo, can you just edit out the recorded evidence?
Anyway, you guys can go ahead and take it away on NFL Blitz.
All right, NFL Blitz. Ooh. Andrew, they gave us the show.
The what?
They gave us the show.
Oh, they gave us. I thought you said the game is the show, and I was very confused.
The game is the show.
And I did not know there was an NFL show, but yeah, they gave us the show. It's ours now, so we can.
Yeah, it's called football. What do you mean you didn't know the NFL had a show?
Oh, wait a minute. The what? Blitz has a show, and it's called NFL.
No, not really, man.
Is it live action cartoon?
Like it's every Sunday.
Okay, every Sunday forever. Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, like NFL Blitz.
Tiring.
For those of you that don't know, NFL Blitz was an exaggerated arcade take on American football. The original designers, Midway, wanted to create a game that was easy for casual entry, easy rules to pick up. And in the late 90s when this game came out, the thing that defined the NFL was its violent hits. So it's an over the top violent take on American football.
Exaggeration of American football.
Yeah, it's great. I guess let's do listener feedback. We got like 3 of them, and then we'll get into more detail about the game. But Elton Das writes in and says, "I do not like sports games." The end. No, that's not really what she said. She said, "I'll play the occasional circuit racing game and one golf game per console generation. Other than a few NBA Jam style exceptions, that's about it for sports. NFL Blitz was one of those exceptions. I appreciated the arcade style of its gameplay, sending opponents flying 15 feet in the air on a tackle, a complete absence of penalties, literally drop-kicking fools from the other team. Of course, my recollection may be fuzzy, as not even Retro Warriors could inspire me to pull that one out of storage. But hey, we get a whole episode with Guy and his smooth, buttery voice, so that's something." Elton Daffs, I love you. Thank you. I love that description.
There you go.
You want to read Rygar's there?
No, because you have a note for it. I'll read the last one.
Okay, you can read Bobby's. All right. Rygar Star Kong writes in and says, "Oh boy, old Star Kong is going to make himself mighty unpopular here. I hate sports. I absolutely loathe sports. Maybe it's because I was in the marching band in high school and I spent my fall nights freezing my butt off in the stands with my saxophone half frozen to my lips while everyone cheered on the team and oogled the cheerleaders, all the while throwing trash at the band. Maybe it's because in gym I was the last person picked by a team captain. I mean, the kid in the Iron Lung would get picked for sports teams before I would. Maybe it's because my ex-girlfriend left me for a high school quarterback. Dude, you got problems, man. Rygar, I love you. You got problems, buddy. I don't know. However, I have a bizarre affinity for arcade sports titles. Games like NFL Blitz are good for me because rules and stats and all that stuff really don't matter. I would agree with that. The only thing that I want to say about Rygar's feedback that I wrote down here really was that I was in band and I love sports, so I don't think that's a valid excuse, man. I think sports are super nerdy, and I will fight anybody who says that they're not. You know, at the end of the day, you know, like football, you've got thousands of people dressing up as their favorite character coming together to watch an event. I don't understand how that's not nerdy, but you know, I get that there's always been this dichotomy between like jocks and nerds or whatnot, and sports has been a jock thing and games have been a nerd thing, but I think there's validity to both worlds, and I would encourage you, if you're not into sports, check some out. Maybe one sticks with you. Anyway.
At the same time, if you don't like it, that's also okay. You don't have to like it, or, you know, have a reason to dislike things.
All right, fine.
Okay. IG Amazing Bob says, every year my family would vacation at a local beach for several days. While there, I would inevitably spend a couple hours at the arcade every day. 1 year I spent almost every day playing NFL Blitz. As a sports fan and a fan of over-the-top fake arcadey action, it was the perfect blend of both. Which I think you are right. It is the perfect blend of arcadey, nutso, just action sports.
It's such a goofy game. I love it. As we mentioned a little earlier, it was developed and published by Midway Games. The first arcade version came out in 1997. It was ported to PS1, N64, and PC in 98, as well as it looks like Game Boy Color in December of 98. And then there was Blitz, and it was a huge success, and everybody loved it, and that's the end of our episode.
That's it. Goodbye.
Yeah, let's talk about first encounters. My first encounter with Blitz was at Putt Putt. If you don't know what Putt Putt is, it's a mini golf chain that's mostly like in the southern United States. I think there's some out in California. But the two things that every Putt Putt has are mini golf courses and an arcade. Some have like go-karts and batting cages and stuff, but I guarantee you find mini golf courses and an arcade. The one where I grew up had 2 rooms of arcade machines. The first main room was like this big open pit area with the ticket machines and a redemption counter. And then there were some other, arcade games. And then you could walk up some stairs, and like surrounding this pit on 3 sides was a second tier, probably about, I'd say 12 feet wide, something like that, where you had room to walk, but you also had games like lined up against the wall. Yeah. And then you could follow that path around into a separate third room with even more games. So I spent a lot of time there. I think I had a couple of birthdays there. It was great. So that's where I first ran into NFL Blitz. And, I've personally been a football fan since the early 90s. I remember the first game that I watched was the Bills' second Super Bowl versus the Washington team. I went to our neighbor's house and we watched the Super Bowl there, and I was like, what is this? And my dad was like, oh, this is football. You should watch it. And then the next year they started watching football like full time. And that happened to be the first time the Cowboys won the Super Bowl in the 90s was the next year when I started watching it. Mm-hmm. And so being the local team and, winning the championship, all of a sudden I was like, oh, I'm into this thing now, and have been following football ever since. So running into, NFL Blitz was like, oh, hey, this seems like a neat take on it. And I cannot tell you how many quarters I guess at Putt Putt, it's tokens that I spent on Blitz. I think I had my name in like the top, thing at the arcade and stuff. It was super fun. What about you, sir?
Well, for me, yeah, mine is very similar. I grew up in California. There was another kind of arcadey go-karts mini golf place that I can't remember the name off the top of my head, and I was frantically trying to search for it for some reason just now. But we also did have putt-putts where I grew up, and I do remember Blitz kind of being that arcade that, you know, it has really nice, wasn't it like a blue purpley kind of front above the screen, and that just kind of shone out over everything. Plus, it was all football-y and violent at the time, which when you're a kid, you're like, oh, yeah, cool, I get to beat up things. But I was also pretty like sheltered by my parents, so they didn't really let me play it, but they did allow us to buy it on the PS1 for some reason.
Oh, that makes sense.
How that slipped by, or, you know, if they just relaxed. Maybe they just were like, no, that's going to take so many quarters, and I'm not going to let you waste your money on something like that. So I did play it a couple times in the arcade, but most of my experience is with the PS1 version, which my brother and I played so much just over and over. And just the fun violence that it has there. But yeah.
Did you guys like, I don't know, did you ever guys have like little mini tournaments and stuff, or was it just like,
oh yeah,
you know,
where we're like choosing like different teams? I think we did I feel like we did a bracket at one point where we chose different, like one of us played a team until they lost, and then the other person, like, and we tried to get up to like a certain amount of wins.
Nice.
But I think we only did that like once or twice, just because that takes like your whole day basically if you're doing it.
Well, awesome. Let's get into development, I guess. Midway started developing basically a football version of NBA Jam, was how they conceptualized it at Midway.
Which other great game, NBA Jam.
Right. Maybe we'll talk about that one day. They started development with the idea to make the game accessible to fans and non-fans alike, you know, like we talked about. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a key part of what they wanted to do was to get the NFL licensing. So they talked to the NFL, they got the licensing. And as we sort of talked about, you know, the thing that the NFL was marketing at the time was the
the hits,
right? The bone jarring impacts of the
just
sport.
like how NASCAR usually shows off all the crashes and everything.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't until like the mid-aughts that the NFL was like, oh, maybe this is bad for players.
Right.
You know, and
what?
And to be fair, it wasn't even the NFL. It was the players, you know, saying, hey, this is bad for us. And you know, there were a lot of people and players that brought attention to you know, the CTE and all the concussion syndromes and stuff that they had to deal with later in life.
Yeah. A lot of terrible stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty awful. But Blitz leaned into it, and the NFL, you know, was on board for a little while. But during the mocap sessions, the lead artist Sal DeVita was like just kind of goofing off between takes and just doing kind of random things to see if they could throw it in the game or whatever, and he started doing like pile drivers and spine breakers and stuff, or excuse me, like elbow drops and leg drops, and you know, got a laugh out of his team, and then sort of stepped it up into pile drivers and spine breakers,
which is probably where all that comes into for like whenever you're tackling somebody that's already been tackled, or all the goofy moves.
Right, and they still have them in the game, like where, you know, like the spinning arm tackle where they'll spin you around by arm for a while and just like throw you 30 yards.
Yep. Or the ones where they literally throw you 30 yards by like grabbing onto you and pushing you in the air.
Oh man, well, when we were playing the game, it was a little inconsistent because sometimes they would do that and you would get the yardage and sometimes you wouldn't, it felt like, right?
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of times where we got very few of like the grab arm spin. I think we got like one or two. We got a lot of the ones where if you were coming from the front and tackling like a runner,
mm-hmm.
it would just push you back like 10 yards or 15 yards. I mean, luckily it would keep your point wherever you made contact, but still like getting pushed that much back.
So they started incorporating those moves into the game, and everybody kind of loved it. They tested the machines in a small arcade in Chicago, and it did really well over a test weekend. So they were set for launch, and then a week before the launch, the NFL decided to give them a call and say, "Hey, can we see this game that you guys licensed from us?" And so the Midway team was like, "Yeah, sure, come on down, check it out." So they did a demonstration, played a couple of games, and from what I've seen, the executives from the NFL asked to have a moment to confer and spent a good amount of time in a private session away from the Midway executives.
Right.
And then came back and basically said, "No, we're going to have to wash our hands of this. Thank you anyway. Here's your money back."
Okay.
So to say that it was a little over the top at the time would kind of be an understatement. So Midway said, "Well, okay, hold on. It's important to us that the NFL name and players' names are in there. So give us a week. We're gonna take some of the stuff out. We'll send you, some of our revisions. We'll play test it again in Chicago, see how it does." And when they did that and they took out some of the stuff, it was still like one of the top performing games of the weekend. So they
I always wonder how much more violent it was.
Well, okay, right. So some of the changes that they pulled out, they took out the spine buster and neck breaker. If you don't know your wrestling moves right off the bat, a spine buster is basically somebody picks a person up over their head and slams them down like neck first into the ground.
I thought that's in there. Is it not?
Oh, that's the neck breaker. Excuse me.
Oh, okay.
And the spine buster is a similar thing, but throwing you straight flat on your back, I guess. I don't know.
Oh.
They removed the blood spattering effects that were originally in the game.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that'd be bad.
Yeah, so like arterial spray and stuff. And then they shortened the time after play because apparently originally it was around 10 seconds or so, and you could get the entire, by switching characters real quick, you could get the entire other team to dogpile on the ball carrier.
I feel like I've done that before. Like I feel like there was enough time for me to get everybody over. Because that was always like one of the big things, maybe like because that was one of the big things when I was a kid. It's just like, and even now when we played, that was one of my favorite things. Is after you tackle them, you could just sit there and tackle them for however much, for I guess 3 seconds.
Right. So they took some of the stuff out, and then they sent the new gameplay video over to the NFL. But what they did, rather than send them live gameplay data, they sent them a move set in their dev environment. So basically they sent the wireframe like mocap stills without any kind of context and said, "Here are the moves."
So the NFL was probably just like, I guess it's better. And then
yeah, if they even watched it at all, I guess. I don't know.
They probably just went, "There's no blood," and then checked it off.
Right. So they got sign off from the NFL, released the game, and that was that. It was a runaway success that people still talk about and remember very fondly.
I mean, I always kind of wish that they would make a remake, though. I think that's kind of a not gonna. As somebody mentioned in the Discord, they didn't really make, or they've made previous or next Blitzes, but they're never NFL because the NFL backed out from there on out. So I think it'd be very difficult to get the NFL in there.
Yeah, I think. Well, we'll talk about it a little bit more in Legacy because there are a few iterations of the games over the years, and the game has changed hands between Midway and EA, and it's a whole thing.
Well, we'll get into gameplay then. So rules that have changed from the NFL: it's 7-on-7. There's 4 downs to get 30 yards, which is a lot more space to go, but it is very cartoony and arcadey. So
Right. So for like the 80% of people listening to this show who don't know NFL rules off the top of their head.
Yeah, there we go. Why don't you take that away? You know it better than I do for the rules.
Normally the teams are 11 on 11 at a time. So they have slimmed it down to where there's the quarterback, 3 receivers, and like 4 people on the line trying to stop the people from coming over.
Yeah, and I assume the 7 just made it easier for you to control as a player in an arcade setting.
Yeah, I would think it gives you fewer options and a lot less complexity, and you can
Yeah. There were no penalties in the game, obviously, because you could just beat the crap out of each other as much as you wanted. Can it make additional passes as long as you never pass the line of scrimmage? So you could pass back to a runner, and then the runner could throw it still, which is not how that works in real football. You cannot pass back like that.
Yeah, you can only pass it like backwards. You can only have 1 forward pass per play in real football. So the difference being in Blitz, like you said, if as long as you don't pass it past the line of scrimmage, you can pass it as many times as you want.
Yep. The quarters in the game are 2 minutes long, and as we all know, regular football quarters are an hour each. So, at least that's how it feels whenever I watch football.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you were serious or not, and we were going to have a discussion.
That was a joke. In the arcade version, you had to pay a credit for each quarter, including any overtimes. So overtimes are unlimited. So you can have as many overtimes as possible if you're just continually tying. So a full game could cost 4+ credits or tokens or quarters. I don't know how... Was it 1 credit?
By default, when you start up the arcade machine, it's 2 credits per quarter. But those are adjustable in the settings menu.
But I'm assuming most arcades probably kept it that way to make more money.
Yeah, I would assume that as well. I think more your arcades that worked off of tokens probably kept it 1 credit or whatever, but I don't know.
Possibly. Yeah.
So what that credit translates to in, I suppose, money is 50 cents a quarter.
Yeah. So 50 cents every game quarter.
Yeah, I guess that makes more sense. Sorry.
Controls, you had 3 basic controls for offense and defense. You had a jump for offense, pass, and turbo. And defense has a tackle, switch player, and turbo. Those controls, man, I don't know what it is. Like, they were hard for me to learn on the controller that I was playing on, which maybe that's just going from arcade to controller.
Yeah, man, you were having a tough time.
I was having a hard time, like, figuring, like, because the buttons weren't the same for offense and defense.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was playing, like, offense, like, I was like, oh, I'll pass. And for me in my brain, I was like, passing and offense is tackle and defense, because that makes sense.
I don't know how that makes sense in your brain, because passing...
They're both like the action button. Like, you don't have a pass for offense, and you don't have a tackle or for offense, and you have a pass for defense.
Oh, I get that now.
It was like the action button to me. I was like, that's the action for this, side. But that's not.
In my
luckily,
head,
turbo's the same no matter what.
Yeah. In my head, it was passing. Like, when you pass the ball, you're switching players. So pass and switch players are the same. And generally, when you're tackling, you're jumping at a person. So jump and tackle are the same.
That does make sense. I see that now. But it's too late.
It is far too late. We will never play Blitz again.
We'll never play it again. You would, whoever or how to pass the ball is determined by the direction of the joystick or that you're aiming at. So if you're going to aim left, you're going to pass to the person to the left. Now, in order to further simplify things, Midway did extensive work on the AI. So while you do have control over passing to the left, middle, or right, if 2 receivers are close to each other, it'll always pass to the receiver that's more open or has less guys around him, versus just the highlighted passer or receiver. Like many Midway games, there was a cheat system based on the 3 boxes you can change the symbols in which the game is loaded. So at the very beginning, there's 3 boxes at the bottom for anyone that's played it. And the different cheats are big head mode, invisible quarterbacks, which, oh man, That would not be fun to play on a game where you just blitz people all the time. Ground fog on.
Well, yeah, the way that you play it, Jesus Christ, you come across the line like immediately.
Oh, yeah, man. Oh, that's
Dude,
how I do it. There was anecdote real quick. There was a game that I like to play on PS2 called Quarterback Club, and it's just a completely broken garbage game.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would do is switch characters all real quick and put them all on the line. And then I would basically play Blitz with this QB Club game where I would just blitz every single time. And you're not supposed to be allowed to do that in real football, I don't think. At all. And I would just do it every time, and there would be no penalties called or anything like that. It was great. It's a great game. I mean, it was a broken game, but I liked it. Other effects you can do are ground fog, big football, team big players, which I guess that's just your players. I don't think I ever played with that one on. That's just your players big, I'm assuming.
Yeah, they also have small players. This isn't like a comprehensive list by any means.
Yeah. Step out of bounds and infinite turbo.
Yeah.
But the game is definitely fast, loose, brutal, and fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I had so much fun playing this game. So presentation, eh?
Yeah, we're going to get into the graphics, which is full 3D game. Woo! It was developed on new hardware dubbed Seattle system based on the 3DFX chipset. NFL players were stylized with overly large proportions on the chest, shoulders, and legs. It was very kind of like blocky. They kind of look like Mario from Mario 64.
They do. So I wasn't exactly sure how to describe it because the torso is like sort of a trapezoid shape.
Right.
And then they have like no hips or butt and then giant like
yeah,
thighs and calves.
They're basically just shapes all put together. It was mostly an isometric view from behind the quarterback. Think like Madden camera styles that we have today. Sound, the announcer for the game was the same announcer from Midway used for the NBA Jam, which was Tim Kittro. I always loved like the announcers swearing, like bleeping, because it was always so loud, and it kind of made it. I guess as a kid, it made it more like naughty or whatever. Like you're already like beating the crap out of guys, than like you're being like a bad kid because now you're listening to swear words or whatever. I just love all the great sound effects, like all the like the bullet ricochets whenever like a pass misses or anything like that, or the bowling strike whenever you're like running through dudes.
Yeah, that one's always a good one. That one genuinely makes me chuckle.
Yeah, the just great sound effects whenever it's going through. And then all the screams, like it sounds like everyone's dying anytime anyone's touched. But I probably would have appreciated a Wilhelm scream in there every once in a while.
Oh, man. Yeah, we didn't talk about it in gameplay, and I don't know a great place to put it, but another like consequence, I guess, of having no penalties is the fact that whenever the ball is thrown, you can tackle whoever it's thrown to immediately.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Very unfair.
It's like my favorite part of the game.
Yeah. I mean, I do it to you too, but anytime you do it, I just scream roughing the roughing the passer.
This pass interference, this game's bullshit.
It was. I mean, I want there to be stuff called on you, but not on me. That would be fun.
Look, just because you went like 0-5, I don't know.
Hey, well, okay. We were close every game.
We were close every game.
Yeah, you won by like 1 point every game except one where you like annihilated me, and I have no idea how. But
because I think I was the Cowboys that game.
Oh yeah, you were like the Cowboys, and I don't remember.
You were like the
Jets.
Bears or something. I think I had started that game before you had logged in.
Oh yeah, you did start it before, and I got in on like the halftime. I think is when I joined.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was rough. It was a rough game. Well, what's the legacy? What are we looking at here? The reception.
Reception. It's very positively reviewed and well received by players the world over. Really, it's hard to find anybody who says anything bad about it. As far as a football arcade game goes, I think as you can tell by our write-ins, a lot of people have fond memories, and it's just it's I don't know, Midway hit the right buttons, so to speak. They took the concept from NBA Jam and really applied it well to football.
They found the gold.
Found the gold. It's funny, in 2000 they made a gold edition. Speaking of legacy, so in the arcade had the NFL Blitz. Was the original release. They released NFL Blitz 99 and eventually released NFL Blitz 2000 Gold Edition.
Gold Edition.
Which the reason they named it Blitz 2000 Gold Edition is because NFL Blitz 2000 is the home port of Blitz 99.
Oh, so they were just lazy.
Right. They also released NFL Blitz 2001, which was a port of Blitz 2000 Gold Edition. Yeah. Right.
So really they're just very lazy.
Yeah, it looks like they developed it for the arcade and then ported it a year later. Is basically what happened.
Right.
Until they got to the NFL Blitz Special Edition, which was an N64 only edition of NFL Blitz. It was a roster update for the 2002 season, I believe, from NFL Blitz 2001. So it's the same port that they did for NFL Blitz 2001. Mm-hmm. They just updated the roster, and it was only available for purchase at your local Blockbuster.
Weird. That's very weird.
Yeah, I mean, being in 2001 or whatnot, I would assume that was right before Blockbuster started declining.
I feel like we rented games for Blockbuster, but we never purchased them from them.
I remember purchasing
games
from Blockbuster. I remember going to Blockbuster to try and buy an Xbox when they came out.
Oh, weird. Yeah, we had a Funko Land near us whenever we were growing up, before GameStop took over. So that's where we went for all our games.
Yeah, there's Funko Lands were a lot of where I went when I got a little bit older. I was just thinking about that. There's the Funko Land that I used to go to is like right by my house now. I drive by it like when I go to get like fast food and stuff.
Yeah.
And now it's like a retro game store, which makes a ton of sense. But it was always like a half price books, and then a Funko Land, and then a Marble Slab, what's it called? Marble Slab Creamery.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Marble Slab and the half price books are still there, and that game's a retro game store now. So okay.
I mean, makes sense. Yeah. It's still the same. They just took the Funko Land sign down.
Yeah, basically. Who knows how many hands it went through. After that, they made NFL Blitz 2002, which was a console game from the start, along with NFL Blitz 2003. Excuse me. And then they made NFL Blitz Pro, which added, which was a separate game from their Blitz lineup, that added more simulation, sort of like Madden.
Yeah.
But it
You're
was
like managing your team and stuff.
Right. You had more play options, more control over your players, things like that.
Yeah.
But that wasn't well received. Apparently that's not what the people wanted from Blitz. And it caused Midway to stop making Blitz games for a year. And by the time they started making Blitz games again, EA had negotiated the exclusive deal with the NFL for naming rights.
For forever.
Right. I don't remember. I think the original deal was like 10 years. But they've been renewing it ever since in giant chunks.
Right.
So Midway didn't want to give it up. So they created Blitz the League, which was basically, it's the same game, but they just used, generic, team names and generic player names.
Yeah. Which kind of loses all, like, you want to play it because you want to be the Cowboys or the Raiders, like beating each other up, not the Wolverines and the Lions. Well, no, the Lions is the actual football team. Oh no.
Right. Well, you know what? To be honest, that's when I started hating EA. Was when they licensed the NFL stuff.
When they stole the NFL.
Yeah. To me, that was, always very, anti-consumer. It was squash the competition and immediately killed every other NFL game that, that was being made, like you said, nobody wants to play, the Dog Sharks versus the Rockets or whatever.
Right.
Like I don't know.
The Dog Sharks.
Isn't that a team name on something? Like
I don't know, but it's
Replacements or
great.
something?
It's a great it's a great mental image, a dog shark.
Well, okay, and Blitz League did have a campaign mode that starred Lawrence Taylor. So I mean, I guess that was the draw that they were trying to pull in, since they didn't have the names to use.
Right.
And they followed up that with a sequel called Blitz the League 2. Surprisingly enough, I guess, I don't know. And they brought back Lawrence Taylor to continue the campaign story, as much as it was. But eventually Midway had to file for bankruptcy due to many factors. And they were looking to get out of the game business, I suppose. So they sold the rights to Blitz, to the Blitz name, to EA, who had their the NFL license. And so in 2012, EA published a game called NFL Blitz.
Was it well received?
Generally well received. I think it came out for the PS3 and the 360. And it felt like a spiritual successor. It felt, what you would expect from an NFL Blitz game. It just wasn't made by Midway anymore.
Sad day.
Sad day. Well, let's get into final thoughts, and then we'll get out of here.
Okay.
I would, like I've been saying, it's a super fun game. It's an easy entry into the football world. For you folks who aren't into football, it annoyingly enough will tell you how to play the game every time you start a new game. Andrew was complaining about that.
Yeah.
Like,
that was irritating.
Like, as soon as you get into the game, it's like, here's what your 3 buttons do.
And I'm like, I know. I've been playing
time.
this for like an hour. Come on, let's go.
Right. I mean, to be fair, it probably doesn't do that on the console ports. We were playing the arcade version. Right.
It was just because it thought we were putting in a new credits each time.
Right. So like I said, even if you don't know the rules, it explains them to you. It's easy to get into. And it's a lot of fun. It's designed around accessibility and arcade fun. It's really fun to play with another player. I think that's the way to go if you can convince a friend to play with you. But it's a wonderful game, and I would highly recommend checking it out if you have any interest in it whatsoever.
For sure. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I mean, it's just such a classic like football game from our childhoods. Like I can't think of any other football game besides that QB Club, and that was more PS2 era. But I can't really think of another football game besides like, classic Nintendo, like Namco. But it never felt too heavy or overwhelming. It was just a lot of fun, like we were laughing the entire time that we're playing just because of how hard we're hitting each other or the dumb sound effects or like, it was just fun. Like it was a fun time. Like there's no stress behind it. I didn't really ever feel like I needed to win in any part of the game. It was just there to play. But it's always worth a good time. And I wish they would make more or like a modern version of it. I think that'd be pretty cool, but I don't know if they could really do it justice.
Yeah. I like how much fun it like you said, I like how much fun it is because even when things are going tragically wrong, I think there was one play where like I intercepted the ball and then you fumbled the interception.
I intercepted it and then fumbled it and then you picked it back up and then I think like it was all over the place. We played like 2 teams that I don't know how they were that like bad with interceptions, because there were multiple interceptions that game and multiple fumbles, but each time it's just like we're both like screaming at each other. Well, I'm screaming at you and not like in an aggressive way, but more just like a fun way. It's a fun scream.
Fun
Just like
screaming.
in the game, when they get screamed, they scream because they're getting pummeled so hard.
All right. Well, let's get into our thank yous, I guess.
Yeah, these are the thank yous for this week.
Yeah, this is all the people who, well, not all the people. These are the specific patrons that we are thanking this week that this show is sponsored by. We appreciate obviously everything that you guys contribute to the show, and this is our time to express that. So first off, I guess we've got Zero Scroll, Fernando Benavides.
And then we have, this is my first time doing this kind of stuff, so if I pronounce anything wrong, I apologize. But we've got vitamin is D, or is it die?
D.
All right, cool.
Chris Hickson.
Vince the ShamWow guy.
Brandon Johnson.
Angel Zebra.
Nick M.
Steve Duke.
Brian Guido Hassan.
And Todd Bass.
Yeah, and that is all the people we are thanking this week. I'm sorry that you didn't get personally thanked by Saturn and Justin.
Yeah, I hope we were good substitutes for this time around.
And really, that kind of applies to everybody that's listening to this right now. Thank you for listening to us talk, and we hope we were a satisfactory substitute for Justin. We were Justin and Saturn, excuse me.
Yep, and if you like it, just let us know. We could definitely do more sports games. This is kind of like a trial, so we're really interested to hear what you guys think.
And with that, we're done. And as always, let us cling together.